So today we have a jag, and I want to say congratulations for your book. It came out last year. So let's start with your book.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Yes.
It's been awesome to be here at the K Food Fair. My book is called Death of a Broker, How a Brand Advocate Was Born. And basically, the opportunity came up after multiple conversations with food brands where I really heard horror stories about people that were really not happy and not satisfied with their food broker, and just evolving the term, because broker, in my opinion, does not accurately describe the role that myself and OMNI Food Sales plays in the manufacturer and retailer relationship. You know, you can go to Barnes & Noble and you could get investing for dummies, or you can get real estate for dummies, but you can't get how to enter the New York food market for dummies. There's not a lot of resources out there. So I really want to put something out there so that the food brands that want a strong representative that really partners with them, I want to let them know that we are here and there is a good option available to you.
It sounds like your previous experience and as well as your current actually inspired for you to write about this book. So is it related to your previous experience as a food buyer?
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard some stories that really left a bad taste in my mouth, and in interviews with these brands, they were kind of putting all the brokers in one category based on their one or two bad experiences with others. So some brokers were giving all brokers a bad name, and I wanted to rectify that. And it's hard to convey that when you sit down with someone or you're meeting someone at one of these food shows or at a buyer's office or at any kind of interview or call that you have. So what I want to do is put like an extended version of what are my personal core values, what are the values that OMNI stands for, what are the things we would never do. I give a few examples of nightmare stories that I have heard, and I just wanted to, be the lighthouse, put a light out there for any ships that are lost out at sea that want to change course and get on board with OMNI. We gave them an option.
So what are the things that you have experienced for your previous career? So you have been in this business for a long time. Tell me a little bit about yourself and then how you started this business and how you become a professional today like you are.
Sure, it's a great question. So the company OMNI was founded 30 years ago. I've been at OMNI for 16 years now, and OMNI is what you call a full-service brand advocate. So we have 3 different segments. One of them is we have a field team. They're called zone managers, and those are people that all they do strictly is merchandise stores. They are out there making sure that items, all authorized items, are prominently displayed in the case at the right location and trying to increase sales and presence at store level. Our second segment is office or admin, order processing, delivery confirmations. Nowadays, almost every customer has their own portal, setting up new items, all the specs, the promotions, the presentations.
Right.
We get asked to do more and more, so there's that end of it. And then lastly is as a business manager, we have a team of business managers that are in the buying offices of the 30 plus retailers in the New York and New England or Northeast marketplace weekly. And I worked over those 15 years in all 3 segments. So I started as a junior business manager. I called on some of the smaller accounts in this market, really sharpened my teeth there, worked my way up, got to put some wins up on the board. But more importantly, I got to make mistakes. I got to learn, and I took the accounts where I really couldn't mess things up because it was so small. But over time, that experience really helped me to gain confidence in selling and understanding what buyers want. Understanding the importance of being prepared and utilizing that opportunity, because you really have one chance at a first impression. You really do. So the best meetings are the ones where you have all this information prepared beforehand, and in my mind I'm thinking, I know this meeting could go 5 different ways and I'm prepared for each one. And obviously my job is to prepare my principal, the manufacturers that we represent, and giving them all this information and giving them all that in advance. And that's where being an advocate really strikes home to me. That's why my mind went to brand advocates, because we are an advocate, similar to an attorney that is preparing their client before going to court about, hey, listen, even if you're guilty, say this, don't say that, because this is how it's going to play out. Those are the kinds of advice that we give, in addition to being accessible all the time.
Right.
So in my time, I've called on every retailer in this market and beyond. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been a part of some failed product launches, but I've also been a part of some really successful product launches that I'm very proud of. And we're at a place right now where OMNI as a team is executing at a really high level. And the book is just helping. Buyers and retail and manufacturers in this area, a lot of them had given me feedback and they'd said, Zach, thank you so much for writing a book. I've been saying a lot of these things before, and I'm so glad someone actually put it on paper that it could be shared with others. And really, it's buyers that have gravitated so much to the concepts in this book because they understand when they have a meeting with me or someone from my team or one of the brands that we represent, we're not going to waste their time.
Right.
We're going to come in prepared. We know the things. Every retailer has their own way of doing business. Some people have upfront costs. Some people want you to support different community endeavors. Some people want an accrual rebate. It's just all different.
Yeah.
We prepare our brands before the meeting, and there's a lot of knowledge that we've acquired over the years.
It actually brings me a question, like when you are dealing with so many items, and then you have to know about all those items to advocate it. What's your secret? How are you dealing with all of those? Because it's not only one or two items. There's so many items that you have to do it. And then you only have a limited time, which is 24 hours a day. What's your strategy and plan just juggling all this?
Well, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. We are taking products, we're giving them to supermarkets that ultimately millions of customers want to buy and bring home to their family. So understanding that, it's really just a matter of finding, everyone has the same indicators like cost, retail, promotion, duration, frequency, lead time, marketing support, all these other things. But at the end of the day, I just break it down and really see, is this something that is going to work for a customer wanting to buy it from a retailer? And having that mindset, understanding what the actual goal is to make a sale and have a repeat sale, it actually makes it a little bit easy to go through the products because we understand what the goal is.
Right. And it sounds like it's very important to understand customers' behavior. And I'm pretty sure as you have much time to spend on understanding it, you have more accurate information, they can make a right decision on it. And then you are here on such a long period of time, ever since you were a little kid. So that must be huge benefit for you, right?
It is. I started early. As a kid, I did go into a distributor and work in a truck, work in a refrigerated warehouse. I've been in the back of supermarket stores since I was like 9 years old. So I feel very comfortable walking into the back room in supermarkets and seeing how inventory comes in, seeing how things are merchandised and stored, how things go out. And I've had all kinds of things happen to me in stores. I've had some people that say, hey, you know what, you've been here, the last couple weeks, go ahead, go build a display, go put out whatever you want out there. Just because they see that I care, because they see that I'm there and I'm not going to put them in a bad position. So showing up, there's something for consistency in this industry, in this business. Like I said, it's not rocket science, but if you show up day in and day out, on time, you dress professional, you treat people with respect, you follow up timely, you do core fundamental things like that, 9 times out of 10, people want to do business with someone like that.
So as you being here at 2024 K-Food Fair, New York, as our distinguished speaker last night at the reception, what did you say like this event? And then what's your opinion on this?
Well, the K-Food Fair has a special place in my heart because in 2017, I spoke, and that was the first time that I used the word brand advocate publicly.
That's right.
And that started a snowball effect of me speaking to other delegations, to other food organizations, and leading universities from around the country. And then additionally, just talking with the food brands there, I ended up working with a few brands from Korea after that too. So being back here in 2024 with a book out that's called Death of a Broker, How a Brand Advocate Was Born, there's a sense of like full circle for me that this is back. Since that talk, OMNI has expanded geographically to other regions in the country, other departments of the supermarket. So I have a lot of love for the K Food Fair. What I'm seeing here is a lot of innovation. There's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot of people that are thirsty for knowledge, that want to grow.
Right.
Just giving out the book and having people come up and talk about the things that I wrote about in the book, it feels so good inside, because writing a book is a lonely process. You spend a lot of time alone. And at the end, the whole thing is in my head, and is this part right? Should I add this? Should I take this out? You don't remember. But it's at events like this, when people come up afterwards and they say, I really appreciate when you talked about having patience, or understanding that there's a sweet spot between what the retailer wants and what the manufacturer wants, and finding that spot. And things like that, that to me, it just validates all the time spent in putting this book together and sending it out to people, that it's being received by the people that I want to receive it by. You know, this book is intended for people in the food industry, because I don't think there are a lot of resources for manufacturers, retailers, brokers, students, anyone. I mean, there's even a good portion of this book dedicated towards leadership, because outside of the food industry, I just feel like in our country, in our world, I know it sounds kind of simple, but I feel like leadership is lacking. And I think we need strong leaders to help inspire the next generation of leaders. And I have been fortunate that I've read a handful of books just on my own as an adult that I've gleaned a lot of great things from. People share their stories, things that are good, mistakes they've made, things they've learned from. And a part of the writing this book for me is also to give back, because I learned from people before me, and I want to inspire the next generation of leaders to do good business, because that's who I want to do business with.
Right. So I was going to ask you a question and you already kind of answered it, but who are your target audience? Is it a buyer? Is it a corporate who created food items, or is it customers? Who is this book is for?
The book, number one, is for food brands. Number one, for the executives of food brands. In the beginning of the book, I talk a lot about these horror stories that I have heard, about brands that just wound up in nightmare scenarios. Brands that were lied to by their broker, that said you had to go this way and you had to pay this and there's no other way. And then when I heard these things, I thought, really? Is that really true? Brokers offering unauthorized promotions for extended periods of time and then sticking their manufacturer with the bill. Just the list went on and on. And then when I was kind of being coupled into this, I thought, this is not right. And I can't always convey that when meeting someone for the first time. So to me, this book is almost like a glorified resume, and it really speaks to the core values that we practice and live by every day, because some of these stories I've heard are just, my jaw would drop, and I'd sit around with my team and we'd all just look at each other like, yeah, that broker got over on him pretty good. So number one, it's for food manufacturers that want to know what options are out there. Maybe people don't know what other options are out there for them. There's big brands that I think could use this knowledge. There's also a lot of entrepreneurs out there. You know, I go to a lot of food shows and I travel the country, and I sit down and have conversations with entrepreneurs that put their own money into this, that collect money from their family and friends to launch a startup. And then they're waiting at these shows, and they're waiting for like the magic school bus to come by and just pick them up and say, here you go, you know, you're onto the fantasy land. And it doesn't happen. And sometimes they get picked up by the nightmare bus, and then they're going down a one-way street towards the end. So I want to get this out for the entrepreneurs, for the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into innovation, because largely it's the entrepreneurs that practice this innovation and are the first ones to put some of these really innovative products out. So I want them to know that there's someone just as hungry as they are, me, on this side, that wants to represent them. That's one. And the other one are the actual retailers, the buyers. You know, supermarket industry is very fierce, very competitive. And people may say things about other brands, other people, you know, negatively. And what I want to do was kind of control the narrative around me and OMNI Food Sales. This book, I'm very vulnerable, I'm very transparent. I went back and forth, like, should I share some of these things about my experiences
Right.
growing up? And at the end of the day, I thought, let's just put it all out there. You know, I believe in sharing and vulnerability. I'm okay being vulnerable, putting myself out there. If competitors want to pick apart pieces of it, that's fine. I know who I am at the end of the day. I'm not for everyone. Everyone's not for me. But I want to put my values out there, my thoughts on leadership. And I wanted the buyers of supermarkets to understand just who they are dealing with. This is everything that I believe in. I put my heart into these pages, and really the buyer's response has been phenomenal. They were the ones really initially that were the ones that encouraged me with this.
Right. It's not easy to do that, to just share your knowledge and your wisdom with other people. So I really admire you spend a lot of time on this, and then as a result, you have a really good book right here. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who want to read this book.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm honored to give the book out at events like this and have conversations, and it really touches my heart when people are talking about some of the things. You know, someone came up today and shared a quote from Buddha in there about, you know, grasping anger and letting it go so that you don't burn yourself or someone else. There's a lot of lessons in here in just leadership in general, and I really do enjoy connecting with other people, even just from a leadership perspective, even if it's not related to the food industry. I do enjoy connecting and hearing things that other people practice, and I think there's a lot to learn from people, even across other industries.
Well, time has been changed. The world has been changed. We have been through so many things, including pandemic. And then now with everything is online and every individual has their own world inside of their iPhone. A lot of things must been changed in your world as well. What are the biggest challenges and then biggest changes in your industry?
That's a great question. You know, COVID was a really challenging time because almost overnight, the balance between food service, like, you know, restaurants and other, you know, establishments and
Right.
retail, groceries, the pendulum swung like this overnight. It was a really challenging time for us, but we were prepared. You know, we had a great team in place when COVID hit. We had empowered other people. I had delegated to others on my team. And when COVID hit, we really just continued doing what we were doing. The only thing that changed was the frequency and the intensity from our retailers picked up. We have a really dedicated team of people, of zone managers that are out there in stores that worked through the pandemic, that assisted stores that didn't have staff. And a lot of our lines grew exponentially during COVID. And we came out of COVID better than when before COVID started. And it was because of our dedication to the fundamentals that I talked about. Showing up, being consistent, generating excitement around the brand, and being there for the customer. What are the changes? You know, there's some changes in technology, but really, you know, people still do prefer meeting face to face.
True.
The biggest change now is we could just hop on a Teams call with our buyers instead of everyone having to line up schedules and go in person. We still do have in-person meetings, but the ability to execute is so much more efficient now. If you're not utilizing Teams and Outlook and text messaging, group text and threads and things like that, we can really solve solutions so much faster now. But it involves people being on the same page and people practicing sound communication and respect for one another.
Now, as we're closing, is there any names that you want to mention or anything that you want to talk about?
Names. What kind of names?
I don't know, anybody that you want to talk about it, like, you know, in terms of your books or anyone you want to mention during this interview?
Yeah, I think I need to mention Jimmy Aiello. He was the vice president of OMNI Food Sales for 17 years. He served in the Vietnam War, and he was as old school as they come. I was fortunate enough to serve my apprenticeship under him, and he did not allow me to do things second rate. Follow-up notes had to be sent out the same day. I had to be at meetings, 15 minutes early all the time, and he was constantly drilling me. We would drive 2 meetings together. We would drive back from meetings together, and just from him, I got to observe him in action, thousands of meetings, and I got to see how he treated everyone with respect. And seeing these things up close and personal, it showed me a lot. And then I made mistakes, as I'd mentioned, as a relatively young person starting in this industry. He never hid information from me. He never punished me for making mistakes. He showed me tough love, but he was generous. And I try to remember that, because now as I'm getting older, I've got younger people that I am molding and training.
Right.
And I just think so positively on the experience I had with Jimmy. And we have a scholarship to recognize him.
That's a wonderful
It's the
thing.
Jimmy Aiello Scholarship. He passed away. He had leukemia. But we want to make sure that his spirit and his legacy lives on, and everything he stood for lives on.
All right. My last question to you. Where do I buy this book? And how much?
Well, we got one for you for free.
Thank you.
But the book's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, the Omni Food Sales website.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was Jack Romanoff.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you have any information that you want to share or send, for sure. Do you have established business now?
Yeah, this is our website. We are the e-commerce company in the United States. We are up and running around 50 million of revenue. That's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, nice.
But it's most likely the Korean gourmet, the premium food that we are taking care of.
Okay, and what kind of, you said, is it online? You're selling all
It's
online?
Yeah, it's selling online.
Let's welcome Mr. Jack Romanoff, the CEO of OMNI Food Sales and an active food worker in the U.S., to discuss the latest consumer trends and issues that Korean agriculture and food companies must know to enter the American market. Please welcome Mr. Jack Romanoff with a big round of applause. 네, 여러분 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Good evening. My name is Zach Romanoff, and I am the president of Omni Food Sales. Omni Food Sales is what you would call a food broker. We've been around for 30 years, and after being in interviews with new brands, hundreds of them over the years, I got really tired of the term food broker, because I didn't feel like it accurately described the role that we played in the manufacturer and retailer relationship. So in 2017, I was actually at the K Food Fair, and I gave a keynote speech for 45 minutes about what Korean food brands need to launch into this marketplace. And it's recorded, it's on our website, it's online, you can check it out and watch it. Tonight I'm only talking for about 7 minutes, so if you like any of the themes I'm talking about, you can check that out at length online. That talk was received quite well. It was the first time I talked about brand advocacy publicly. It was received well, and after that, I'd spoken to several other delegations, several leading food organizations, and also universities throughout the United States. All the while, more momentum has been gaining about brand advocacy. And that ultimately led to me writing a book called Death of a Broker: How a Brand Advocate Was Born. So it's an honor to be here. Speaking in 2017 was awesome, and I'm honored to be here tonight. So I'm going to speak briefly about 4 things that Korean food brands should know before entering the U.S. sales market. Number 1, before you have a meeting with a buyer, you want to study your customer at length. You want to become customer obsessed. You want to learn everything about them, because in this part of the country, Metro New York, the most ethnically diverse part of the country, retailers have different ways of operating. And you'll find that even stores within miles of one another. There's completely different planograms, completely different sets. Also, retailers have different execution strategies. There are some retailers that prefer high-low, high price, low price. There are some that want to go EDLP. You need to think about where your product fits in the shelf. Are you going to be the premium brand? Are you going to be the mid-tier brand? Or are you going to be the value brand that gives the consumer the most bang for the buck, the most value for the dollar, so to speak? You need to identify all these things,
There are some retailers that have high entry costs that are absolutely mandatory to get in. There are other retailers that say, no, hold the entry costs, put it into the cost of goods. We just want to sell product. You can gather this information by going on these companies' websites, by physically visiting the stores, doing Google searches, identifying key people and decision makers, and also networking. The food industry is largely a relationships-based industry. People like doing business with those that they know, like, and trust. And additionally, you can gain a lot of insights from people that have sold similar products either to the retailer that you're targeting or from other retailers. You also want to be a source of information for others. It's just good old-fashioned networking. A lot of gleams of information can be taken that can help you to get your product in. Number 2, you want to generate excitement around your product, your brand, and your company. What do you stand for? When were you founded? What is your ownership structure? Do you have a single owner? Do you have a family? Do you have a group? All those things matter. What do you stand for? What are the values that your company has? Are there certain initiatives that you support, that you give back to, whether it's supporting local food banks, whether it's sponsoring a local breast cancer awareness walk, where there's things for sustainability, you want to give back. All these things matter. This is your story. What are your values? What makes your company, what do you have pride about? You may think that these things don't matter, but buyers want to hear that, and they want to be excited. Additionally, marketing, influencing. I know a lot of people talk about marketing, but how do you effectively use those dollars to get retailers excited? Do you have influencers? Do you have campaigns? Are you looking at the calendar and using the calendar as a weapon strategically? In the US, there are certain holidays, the fall, the winter, the spring, and the summer. And there are strategic item launches in every season based on that. The calendar should be used as a tool. I've worked with several international brands before, and I know that it's difficult to sell into this market. I worked with one brand, and we were fortunate enough to actually get a PO and have it secured, and the product got stuck in customs. The buyer had told his customer base, his store owners, that product was coming. Days, weeks, and months passed, and we didn't have any concrete update on when the product would be here. The buyer got upset, and when the product came in, we missed the whole planogram reset. And the buyer was disappointed, and we didn't have real information to give. So communication and transparency is key. Let people know where you stand, even if it's not good news. Give them an update. Number 3, be flexible and be willing to alter your approach based on the retailer that you're targeting. Some brands here have huge reputations around the world. Some of your products are highly successful across dozens of countries throughout the world. Additionally, Korean food has a very positive reputation. There's a whole area in New York City. The whole experience around Korean food is very positive. However, I've often found that manufacturers have their own vision of how their product should be merchandised, and retailers have their own vision of how product should be merchandised. Somewhere in the middle is the sweet spot. And that requires a little bit of sacrifice from both sides, but oftentimes that's when the best product launches occur. So listen to retailers. Retailers will often tell you they all have their own ways of launching products, of generating excitement, and ultimately increasing sales. The smartest manufacturers will listen to what the retailers say and find that sweet spot. Number 4 is patience. And I know we're sitting in a room full of owners, executives, and people in sales, and that's easier said than done. But at the end of the day, you have one chance to make a first impression. One chance. And if you rush, you know there's that old saying, you could run down the hill and grab 1 or 2 customers, or you can walk down the hill and grab all of them. Have the confidence and the discipline to do what's true to you. And don't rush at the first sale and blow your whole budget just to make something happen on the spot. Take the time and make a strategic approach. And I'm telling you, if you have a quality product, there will be hundreds of homes for your products. So those are the 4 main topics that I wanted to cover. I hope they're very helpful for you. I wanted to mention also that Omni Food Sales represents 24 brands. We call on 50 distributors and retailers, which represents 2,500 supermarkets throughout the Northeast. It's a pleasure to do it. I'm going to be here tomorrow. We'll be consulting with some of the different brands along with 2 of my colleagues. Would love to meet with you. And I also have a select number of copies of my book that if you'd like to have it autographed personally, let Claire or I know, and I'd be happy to sign some copies for you or talk to you as well. Again, it's an honor to be here. 2017 was the last time I was here. Thank you so much.
네, 최신 소비 동향과 이슈에 대해 생생한 정보 나눠주셔서 감사드립니다. 김진정 변호사님과 잭 대표님은